It is so great to see you all here. It's a real blessing. I'm trying not to get teary-eyed. As Reverend Tony said, I scheduled myself for last Sunday because I knew this was going to be my last Sunday. Actually living in San Francisco. The moving truck is coming on Thursday. I'm going Thursday or Friday, depending on how fast they pack. That's literally the deciding factor. How fast can they get my stuff out? But it's also Palm Sunday, which I didn't realize until I started, working on the talk, and I was like, I wonder if there's some parallels here we can look at. So I just want to read for you just first, just the biblical version of Palm Sunday. And there's different versions of it, but I'm going to give you the one from Luke. I like Luke. Some of you know, some of you don't know. I actually have my first college degree was actually in Bible. So Matthew tends to be a lot of the teachings. Mark tends to be a lot of the miracles. Luke tends to be very factual. Luke is like boom, 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 this happened, this happened, this happened. So it's kind of nice because he gives you just exactly what he perceived happening, supposedly. And then John's the love bug. You always know, John 3:16. John's the love bug. So in Luke, it says, the disciples brought a colt to Jesus, meaning a donkey, threw their cloaks on the colt and put Jesus on it. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. When he came near the place where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And then as he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it, which a lot of people don't talk about on Palm Sunday. He weeps when he sees Jerusalem. And he says, if you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace, but now it is hidden from your eyes. The days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment against you. They will dash you to the ground, you and the children within your walls, and they will not leave one stone upon another because you do not recognize the time of God coming to you. So it's interesting because I've heard Palm Sunday a lot. You hear what? The triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. And almost everybody leaves off that part as he's coming in Jerusalem. And the people are saying, blessed be the Lord. And other Gospels talk about the palms, that they cut palms down and put the palms down in front of them. Which was, the palm is symbolic for the Jewish culture that it's part of the Sukkot festival. Festival of Lights. And they build their own little, for lack of a better phrase, tents made out of palm branches. And they celebrate it. And part of the reading they do during that festival is saying, blessed be the Lord is going to save us. And so there was some symbolism in this use of the palms also, which Luke doesn't mention. But they're worshiping, saying, oh my gosh, this person's going to come save us. And yet Jesus looked at the sea and wept. Because he knew these people, and this is talking the gospel version, they didn't realize the peace he was bringing. They were seeing him as a conqueror. He's going to save us from the Sanhedrin, the Jewish religious organization that ran like their courts. He's going to save us from the Romans who are currently ruling for us. And he said, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for peace. And he knows as he goes into the city that 3 days later they're going to be calling, crucify him, crucify him. And then 3 days later he's resurrected. And so it's interesting because the Course in Miracles, when you read it, and it was in the reading today, it kind of goes from, the triumphant entry to, it says, the resurrection. Don't let that in-between part get you down. Basically.
Details.
Jesus knew, I really believe Jesus knew he was going to go in and probably get killed. I don't think that was something he was unaware of. But he knew he wasn't a body, and he knew there was a resurrection coming. And so he said, let no dark sign of crucifixion, this is of course, intervene between the journey and its purpose, between the acceptance of the truth and its expression. And like I said, I've been thinking about this because I was like, why did Palm Sunday fall on the last Sunday that I'll be here in San Francisco? I was like, what can I learn from this? There's got to be something. And I'll say to you, and Reverend Tony was talking about this, at the conference in the last week, when I came to San Francisco, I felt I had been absolutely crucified in my life. Mm-hmm. I was miserable. I remember saying to my family, I don't know why they want to hire me. I felt like crap at the time. I felt like I was completely incompetent. I was not spiritual enough. I couldn't be loved. I couldn't even make my friendships work. I felt, and there was a part of me was like, I wanted to blame it on another person. And then there was a part of me also that knew that the healing had to be in my mind. And I wasn't at the CMC, obviously, before I came here. But I think the CMC had gone through a challenging time right before that also. Reverend Heather, who, for those on Gather don't know, she was my predecessor. She had left kind of abruptly. When I got here, we were about 3 months before the 2016 conference. And I didn't know it. Reverend Tony tells me we were way behind. I didn't know it at the time, but he says we were way behind. And I know, Miracles Monthly, we were way behind. And so there was a sense of the CMC was going through a struggle, and I was going through this struggle. And like I said, I felt I'd been crucified. And I remember, and I've shared this before, I remember looking at one point, even wanting to die. And looking at my dog, and the only reason I didn't was because I looked at that little dog, and I said, I can't leave her. I can't leave her and not have her know where Mommy went. But that's where I came from when I got here. And I came to the CMC, and it was a little overwhelming. Because there was that sense of Palm Sunday. There was that little sense of, I remember Reverend Rudy when we were interviewing, he was like, we want you to take us into the next millennium. And I was like, I can't save you. And yet we've been on this journey together. And I was thinking, I feel like I came from that point of crucifixion too, and I hate to say the tomb, because it sounds so dreary in some ways. But it's almost like, I want to say it's almost like the tomb time for me. And what do I mean by that? Okay, I'll admit, is there some parts of San Francisco that for me are a little dark and dank? Yes. Okay, I've been in big cities before. Your homeless population are a breed all unto themselves. Okay? And I love them, but I'm just like, this is a different experience here. And, Reverend Tony and I were talking a few weeks ago, he says, crime happens in other cities. And I was like, I've never seen smash and grabs to the level they are in this city. Ever. And I've been in LA. And then I looked up in the FBI, said, by the way, smash and grabs are #1 in San Francisco for cities this size. So, smash and grab, you break the window and you grab the stuff. Reverend Peter has been, our poster boy for being the victim of smash and grabs. Yeah, so Rudy too. Yeah, we're letting that go. So there's been at times where I've looked around and gone, ugh, this isn't quite comfortable for me. This isn't, and I always thought about, I lived in West Hollywood. And I'll be honest, when I lived in West Hollywood, the joke was, if you're too gay for San Francisco, you went to West Hollywood. I thought I was pretty liberal. Okay? San Francisco's a whole new level, I'm telling you.
Amen to that.
And it's just, it kind of was like that little ding and going. But at the same time, what can I tell you? I think there's been healing. When Jesus came out of the tomb, they still, Thomas still touched his hands. And there was still those scars there from the crucifixion. But he wasn't bleeding still. There's that healing. And there's so much healing in my life. And I'll say, Reverend Tony, if anybody gets a chance to work with him, is an expert on saying thank you. And making you feel good about yourself. Yay! He's one person, I said, it was strong after I started. I said, it's kind of weird. I'm not used to somebody telling me I do good work so much. Because he does. He's such a loving person. He's so grateful for everything that goes on around him. And I've seen him, and I'll say, I think it's why he's the executive director and I'm not, He's much nicer when he gets annoyed than I am. There's times when I've wrote emails, and I'm going to say it, I'll say to him, Reverend Tony, read the email, make sure I don't come across a total bitch in it, because I know he's much better than I am with that, because that's been not my strong suit. If I think you're being an idiot, I like to look at you and go, you're being an idiot. And that doesn't always go over so well. But I've worked on that, and Reverend Tony's helped me with that. And during this time, I've seen a therapist. I've been very open. I've had issues with anxiety and depression. It's why I've got Curie with me all the time. I've seen a therapist, and one of the things we talked about was patterns in my life that I was repeating in relationships, generally with men, sometimes romantic, sometimes not, but the patterns that I was repeating. And I finally spotted them and was like, oh my gosh, if I'm a child of God, I don't need to put up with this crap. Love makes no exceptions means love makes no exceptions to me either. And so I worked on that. And then I watched the CMC, and we moved. That was a big, oh my gosh. I remember sitting in the office one day, and I knew Reverend Tony had been really stressed out. Really, really stressed out. That's one thing he doesn't hide. He's very grateful. He also doesn't hide his feelings well. And I knew he'd been stressed. And he finally one day, I said, what's going on? And he was like, I don't know what to do. We can't pay the rent. The rent's getting further and further and further behind. We were paying it, but it was like, we can't keep going like this. And I remember I sat with him, and he gave me the numbers, and in 2 seconds I said to him, we have to move. We can't do this. Mm-hmm. And it was an interesting moment, because I remember he just had this look like somebody finally said what I think he had been thinking. And it gave him the power and courage to step up and lead us in that move. And then we went through a conference where, I won't do it, because I've already said, I have given up the alter ego. I am never trying to be a stripper. I've given that over to Reverend Tony. He gets to be the stripper. And I've seen us challenge. Reverend Rudy wants to join it. I've seen us go through the challenges of having people respond to that. And we've grown. And we're in a space now where, we've got pretty much almost as many people as we'd have at the old location right now. We're kind of busting out of the seams today. And I'll say it was an interesting moment. A couple months ago, we were talking about, would we have a replacement for the CMC? And I know at the time, it was probably kind of an incidental comment. Somebody said, well, I said it's very expensive to live in San Francisco. The people were considering coming, who ended up not being able to, but they were considering it. I said, I don't know how they can afford to have a family here. And the comment was made, well, maybe they could live outside San Francisco. And for most people, that was a passing comment, like, oh, they could afford somewhere cheaper. But I knew the history of that was a lot of healing behind it. Because when I had come here, there was a lot of fear of, if the assistant lives out of San Francisco, how will that be? And I thought there was a healing in just our perception of what needed to be for things to continue here. And I totally went off script, so that's okay. I'm like, I don't even know where I am on my notes anymore. There we go. And so we've gone through this time, but I've gotten to the point, and I've shared with a lot of you, there's been various things. I said, I thought I was really liberal. I realized I'm not so liberal. Reverend Roxy's like, oh no. Well, and I was compared to every other city I've ever been in. And it's not that that's bad. I love my polyamorous, bisexual, kinky people. But it's not me. You don't, it's funny because I said to a friend, they said, well, what do you do? I said, here's the thing. The people I know would probably go on a Tinder date instead of going to a crystal shop. And it's not a bad thing, but for me, that's where I'm at. And I start realizing, okay, you know what, this isn't fitting me. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I like having, and I said this the day I moved in, I said, I have to find an apartment. I said, I'm not going to live with roommates. I have to have a space that's sacred for me. My own sacred space where I can retreat and have that sacred space. And I found an apartment that I loved. And the homelessness has increased. Where I'm hearing them screaming, I said to somebody a little while ago, I said, about 2:30 every few weeks, I hear the person go by who's screaming about their mother got killed by the CIA. That's every few weeks now at my home. I have this karma apparently with the apartment next door that I keep getting young, loud people moving into it. He's improved. He's not having parties at 3 in the morning anymore. He's just watching TV and laughing and talking hysterically loud at 3 a.m. now. And I came to this point, I said, I was praying and praying, and I said, this isn't the right space for me anymore. So much healing has happened for me. So much healing has, I believe, happened for the CMC. And every sign is telling me this isn't where I belong anymore. And it broke my heart. The first time I talked to Reverend Tony and said, I'm considering leaving, I cried. Because I love you. And I love the people. But, and I've shared this before, every time I go to the doctor, they go, we don't know why you're sick again, you're just sick again. The last 3 times I've had to go to the doctor, and they're coming up legitimately you've got vocal cord polyps, you've got extra bile in your stomach, you have this, you have that, and they keep coming back and saying, and we have no explanation. And I finally said, Holy Spirit, other than putting me flat out with a flat out heart attack, okay, Holy Spirit's gone about as far as they can physically knocking me down, I think. And I said, I've got to start listening and looking and saying, why am I having this experience? And it was an odd moment that I came to, and it was completely unexpected. So I moved here, I was like, I can keep renting. Not a big deal. Now, I will say, I never expected rent control meant $30+ a year increase. I thought it would be $5 to $10 a year, and it was $30 for the first year. And I went to visit my parents. I forgot when exactly. I went to go visit my parents, and I pull out, and I will say, I would never live where my parents live. Okay? Would never do it. It's not just that it's remote. They're an hour to Vegas. It's desert. But I pulled out, and there was a sign outside their house, or their trailer, they live in a trailer, and it said, own your own home, new houses starting at $80,000. And I was like, 80,000? That's not even a down payment in San Francisco.
Right.
And I was just like, God, okay. Huh?
Closing
costs, yeah. $8,000 closing costs in San Francisco. And I tried to dismiss it, and I said, this is, but something's not right here. It was just another sign for me. And I prayed about it, and I prayed about it, and meditated, and there was a couple times I talked to Reverend Tony, but I knew he was sad at the thought of me leaving, so I didn't want to make him too sad. So I tried not to tell him too much. But I went up to Seattle, and I started looking, and Seattle, for some reason, has an energy for me that has always felt like home. Even in the big city, it's felt very embracing for me, and I can't explain why. And I started to look in Seattle and thought, well, maybe I can get an apartment up here. Maybe I could get whatever. I'm doing a long story short. My realtor I started talking to a realtor. They said, why don't you look south? Next thing I know, I'm on an island. And when I say island, most of you know, I mean literally an island. It's a ferry to get to my house. Every time I go anywhere, it's $14 round trip to go anywhere. And I had that moment, I thought, well, everybody tells me I'm a city girl. Everybody's told me I'm a city girl, and I realized I'm not. But I like having the advantages of a city. And I realized, Bed Bath & Beyond, I can get there in less time taking a ferry than getting across San Francisco. And so I just kept praying about it, and I finally said, this isn't working. And ironically, when I decided to tell the board, because I was like, I need to give them as much advance notice as I can, was when I had vocal cord polyps. So we were sitting actually in Reverend Roxy's apartment having a board meeting, and I'm typing on my computer with, Siri telling everybody that I'm leaving. And there were some people who were, I think, absolutely shocked. I actually told Reverend Vincent when we were bowling. And there were some people who were shocked, and then some people were like, we get it. And I love Reverend Roxy. She said to me, this is your job, this is your passion, this isn't your city. Which is exactly what it's been. I love the people. I love the Community Miracle Center. I love the conferences. The city is just, the body that I'm not feels like it's dying slowly being here in a way that I've never felt before. And so I told the board, I said, I can't do this anymore. I love you all. I can't do it. And there was back and forth, and a few please, can't we figure out a way? And what's ended up developing, and I think it's a really healing thing for the CMC, is we were already looking at doing the conferences annually, going forward, doing them every year. And this new conference is big. We're already, I want to say, like, in terms, we haven't gotten the names yet, but from what presenters have said, we've probably got over 150, 200 people signed up. I'm not talking tickets sold, I'm talking real live bodies signed up already. That takes a lot of work. And now we're looking at, there's options for the CMC to bring somebody in who's already local to be able to do some of the administrative work, to be able to do the support work, and allow me to continue supporting the CMC where I'm strong. Bringing the conferences, bringing, Miracles Monthly, doing the transcription for that. And finding a way that really supports not only Reverend Tony and everything he does, because he's a busy guy, but now I got him, he's even thinking about doing some work at home. And I'm like, good for him. He's been doing this 30 years, Let's find a way to make this a little easier for everybody. And I believe in the midst of all this, that there's a resurrection. The CMC is growing, the CMC is changing. And we never thought when I came here, I thought I was going to be here 20 years at least. I was hoping I would retire after Reverend Tony, but he's a workhorse. I wasn't sure about that once I met him. I was like, I may have retired still before Reverend Tony. But I believe that there's something so fabulous coming out of this, because I can be in a place where I know I feel good, and I can support the community in a way that I love, and I'm not feeling physically worn out. I keep saying I'm not a body, but gosh darn it, I'll tell you, last night after packing all day, every muscle in my body screamed, you're a body, I woke up this morning and I was like, it took me about 5 minutes to walk because I was so stiff. But I do believe, and I've shared this quote with you guys a bunch of times, but I'm going to share it again because I love it, and then I've got a little treat to close out with, but I got to find it because I completely ended up going off script. Sorry, Gather. Sorry, video. Editing, yeah. We can edit. That's an important one. And I've lost it. Yep, it's gone. Okay. I'll keep reading while I'm talking. There it is. What could you not accept if you but knew that everything happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? Perhaps you've misunderstood his plan, for he would never offer pain to you. But your defenses did not let you see his loving blessing shine in every step you took. While you made plans for death, he led you gently to eternal life. It's one of my favorite passages of the Course, because in the midst of not knowing, in the midst of thinking, oh, I'm going to be here forever. If Spirit said, no, you're not going to be here for 2.5 years, I would have been like, hell no, I'm not moving to a city and moving 2.5 years again. And yet I could move forward saying, whatever the plans are, whatever happens, I know that it's been gently planned for our good. And so I want to share with you a little treat, and there's a reason for this. I'm going to indulge me. Unless you have like a medical condition, you can't eat them. Take a cookie. I'm going to hand it to Reverend Rudy. And this is...
No funny stuff in this one.
No funny stuff in it.
Darn.
They are legitimate. They may have been bought in San Francisco, but they're not San Francisco style cookies. This is actually a tradition from the 1500s from the, I can't pronounce it, Hertfordshire, England. And the ministers, the priests, would hand out, depending on, what version of it read, a cookie, a cake, a pastry on Palm Sunday as people were leaving. Now, the one thing you didn't get was they also usually had, a bottle of ale with it too, which they said help church attendance on Palm Sunday. But the reason they gave these cakes out was they symbolized peace and goodwill. And so this is my gift to you, that my wish for the CMC going forward, even if I am many miles away, my heart is with you, and I wish you peace and goodwill.
Cheers.
So, thank you.